I have a 97 Grand Prix. Could change the transmission on it. I got the hood off already. I got this wheel off, this bearing out, and this one axle out of here. Got the transmission, I'm going to put it right here. I took the bottom of it off so I could put a new filter in it. New filter's right here. Haven't installed it into the transmission yet. Got the transmission at a salvage yard. And what I gotta do next is pull this axle out over here, and then I'll be ready to start unbolting the engine, the transmission from the engine, so I can pull it out. Okay, now I'm gonna compress the spring with this spring compressor right here. And when I get that spring compressed, I'll be able to pop this U-joint right here loose, so I can pull this axle out. That's how I did the other side. I don't know if that's the right way or not. This is the first time I've ever done it, and it's working for me so far, so I'm going to do it on this side. I tried using a spring compressor like this one right here. So it's a McPherson strip compressor, but I couldn't get it to fit in there right, so I actually had to use a cheaper one. Now I got this spring compressed, and this is loose now. I can move it a little bit. So now I gotta remove this, the nut right there. There's a castle nut. I gotta pull that cotter key out, remove that, and then I'm gonna pop this right here apart. And then I'll be able to turn this around and pull the axle out. Now I just take this pickle fork right here, and put it right here on this joint, and use a hammer, and I can't do it with one hand, and drive this in here and it'll pop that loose. I got the castle nut off of it. Okay, I drove this in here like this with the hammer. And now it's loose. And I'll be able to separate it and pull it out of the way. Now I've got to loosen this bolt right here. It's up to this spring, or the suspension torsion bar, I think it's called. Loosen that nut. Maybe even take it all the way off in order to let this A-arm swing down, so I can get the ball joint disconnected. Okay, I got the starter removed. Did it previously. Starter's out of the way. It's got to come out. And then there's these two lines right here. Got to remove them. Make sure that you be careful, because oil will come out. Automatic transmission fluid. Put a wrench on this end right here to hold it so you don't twist the line, and then I've got a regular wrench right here. Let's see what size it is. And well, these are going to be metric probably. Oh, there we go. Put this wrench on here to loosen it. It's a 5/8, it looks like, on this end of the line, and then you got to hold it with another one, like I was saying, on this end like that, so you don't just twist the line off. But I can't do it with the camera on. Okay, I'm looking at this transmission I'm going to put in. There's no mounts on the bottom. It doesn't look like. The first mount is right here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they're all on the top part of it. And in order to get to them, looks like I'll have to take this air cleaner hose off, and I don't know what else yet. I'll find out when I get that. Okay, I've got this supported. Got the engine supported with an engine hoist coming from the ceiling. If you don't have a hoist to hold it up, then you'd probably be better not even try this. And then underneath, I've got a floor jack under it, supporting the transmission at the same time. make sure you got all that before you start undoing any bolts. It's like I'm going to use an 18mm wrench. Right underneath this manifold, the intake manifold, is the bolts. Two of the top ones. I'll take those out. The other bolts look like they might be a little harder to get to, so I'm going to remove this manifold right here. Exhaust manifold. Says I'm gonna bolt there, same on the other end, because the bolt is right under it and I can't get to it. The next bolt down. So I'm gonna take that off. Okay, like I said, I changed my mind. This is the first time I've done it, so I changed my mind. I'm not gonna take the manifold off. I removed this little piece right here, and this little piece was bolted on the transmission right here. And I'm just going to stick this one on here so I can remember to put it back on. It's just a little heat shield. It's a little heat shield for this plug right here. So I don't want to damage that plug. I'm going to remove this plug right here, and then I can get to this bolt and the next one under it, I believe. Just fine now. Okay, the next thing that got in the way was this deal right here, this canister. So I had to remove this bolt right here, and which in turn, this was what holds on there, the little bar right here. And when you undo that, this pulls straight out like this. This is what it looks like. It's got a vacuum line hooked to it. The vacuum line hooks to right here. Goes to the fuel rail. And so you want to remember to hook that back up. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to remove this brace and this air box, the rest of the air cleaner here, to get it out of the way so I can get to this bracket on the back or the side of the transmission. And then I'm going to remove this cover right here so I can get to the other things in there. Okay, I loosened the 4 bolts that hold the subframe on. So I removed the 4 bolts that hold the subframe on and dropped the subframe, and then I lowered down the transmission and pulled it out. Transmission's right here. The other one, the replacement one, I put in and just got to put in a new filter, and I'm gonna replace all the seals, the 2 seals on the ends, the one right here and the one on the other end. And okay, now we're gonna put the other axle back in. Got one in already. I thought I better show this one. Transmission's in there. All the mounts are bolted down. Gotta put the axles back in now. I had a plug on the end of the axle so that it wouldn't get dirt in there. Now I just stick the axle back in there. Get it started on the splines and slide it in. Sometimes takes a little bit of doing to get it on those splines. Okay, got the axle in. Now put on the hub bearing. Got the hub bearing on there, and I gotta tighten up the hub bearing bolts. There's 3 bolts on this car. They're 1/2 inch, 13mm. I gotta tighten these up now. Have to make sure that you get the ABS wire through the hole in the center, just underneath the drive shaft right here. It comes through. So that, and then there's a plate that you have to put in. This plate right here goes in between the 2, and this wire has to clip right to that plate to keep it in place. And then you tighten up these bolts. Okay. And then you got to torque these to the manufacturer's spec. I believe it's 140. Get to look. Got to reinstall the axle nut. I got it started on there. Put the axle through the bearings. You tighten on there good and tight. And then bring it to the manufactured specified torque. I believe it was 170, 177 was the torque. We'll have to check to make sure when they get that far. Okay, and then remember to reattach the ABS wire. Yep. Routes underneath here. Clips right here onto the swing axle. And it clips right here. And it clips right here. And then it plugs into that wire that you brought through and stuck on that plate. You have to plug this up, plug it back in right here. Plug in the ABS wire, then attach it back to this plate right here. Okay, the best way to get this tight is put the caliper and the rotor back on, and then have an assistant hold the brake on. Then you'll be able to torque this down to the manufacturer's specification. Then you put the lug nuts back on, put the wheel back on. Then you got to put the battery back in, get it all hooked up. And on this particular one I had to take the windshield washer reservoir off of it to get to the battery. Put that back on, then put this cross piece back on right here, and then we're ready to test it, see if it's going to work. Okay, time to test the transmission, see if it works. Car started okay. Went into reverse fine. Backing out of the driveway. Takes off in first, shifted to second. Shifted to third. Shifts into overdrive. Should shift into overdrive right now. Shifted into overdrive. Shifted nice and smooth. Everything's working good. Seems to be fine. Can't hear no weird noises or anything. Transmission change, swap, turned out good.